Hello everybody, Kyle Grumke here at Grumke Farms again. This morning I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you guys and in video, and I thought, we live on a 124-year-old farm, 125 depending upon which date you start at. And so with that, we've got a lot of established infrastructure. And I was going to maybe walk you through our barn for our livestock handling and weaning and all of that. I don't think I've ever really shared that with you guys. I find that for myself, I maybe am not numb to it, but it's not new. I grew up with seeing this barn, and when I show it to other people, they get really excited, especially anyone that likes history. So I'm gonna go ahead and share that tour with you here on the video. The barn I'm talking about is the one here behind me. Before we go into it, it was originally built as a mule barn. Sorry about the wind noise, I'm trying to cover it, but my great-great-grandfather, he was a mule trader. Charlie Grumke, he ran the sale barn in Wellington, among some other businesses, and this farm until his son Theo got married, and he took over this place, and Charlie and Anna moved to town so he could be closer to the sale barn. And from what I understand, Anna wanted to always be living in town, and town would be Wellington. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a tour of this barn behind us. Okay, so it's a fairly big barn. It's, like I said, it's over 100 years old. From what I understand, Charlie Grumke, he didn't hardly have something done before he was always like, let's put a shed on it. So you'll see where it's been added to and built on down through the years. We're gonna start out right here. This here, we do have an on-farm scales, which is really nice. It's an old one, but you know what? It works. We've got a 50-pound weight we can calibrate it with, and it is accurate down to the pound. So there's where we weigh and do the measuring, and I'll take you around here. We're walking in, and right here is the actual scale shed. That floor right there. Oh, hi, kitty. I'm not sure if that's the mama that had kittens here recently or if that's the daughter of the mama that had kittens. But, so we got the wooden floor here, and you can see they built the sides. Maybe if I zoom out, it'd be a little better. Okay, the sides are sloped so that the cows, they aren't standing off the side of it or on the walls. We can run about 12 weaned calves, 500-600 weights in here. And there's a system of gates and doors. If you see just right over there at the end of the ladder and the other side of the gate, there's a door that leads on the inside to another stall, and we can swing that gate and connect it to the door, or we can let them out to the lots. Sorry about the finger. Like I said in another video, holding the camera sideways is new to me, but it films better for YouTube this way. Here's the gate, and if you'll notice, all the gates in here are wooden. As far as I know, they're original to the barn. The barn's been through several additions and add-ons. You can see the inside of here. It was painted at one time. From what I understand, that was the outside of the barn. And then they weren't hardly done, and Charlie said, let's put a shed on it, which is nice because this shed ends up being somewhat of a catch-all. You can see I park. Growing up, Grandpa's WD-45, Alice Chalmers WD-45, always sat there. And as a kid, I'd sit on the seat and eat snacks and hang out there. My dad, as we go through here, he did a lot of updates to this barn. One of them being this right here. He built in a loadout chute. Used to be you hauled cattle in a flatbed truck. so you had to have a more of a ramp chute. But now with livestock trailers, you don't need that. It's ground load. Used to be the ramp chute was right in the lot on the other side of the scale barn or scale shed. Okay, so as we come on in here, you can see, old wiring. Down through the years, they added a limited amount of lighting. But my dad here in around 2008, 9, he wired a whole lot more lights in here, which made it so much nicer. And then he added the cattle chute. You can see it's homemade, but it works very well. This is just a very economy head gate, and again, works very well. Hi, kitty. That's the one that Brittany would like to get tamed down for a garden kitty, but she is having none of that. The cats I have had here are barn cats, and between you and me, I like barn cats. They might let you pet them, they might not, but they do their job of catching mice. Okay, we come in here, and like I said, this was a mule barn at one time. This was harness holders. Now it's more of a, we've got our ropes for catching calves there, shovels, garden hoses, and that. We added this, which you can reach right around in here and turn on another light to the bay where our squeeze pin to get them into the chute. Just a sliding door with a catch in the back. Okay, I'm going to take you the long way around. Main alley here. As you can see, 2 different levels. Again, I think this barn was built in a couple of different stages. I know it was, because you'll see some that's not even cut lumber, it's timbers. Okay, coming in here. The tin along the bottom and the top, that was during the goat years. Goats can climb up mangers and through things. So you had to button things a lot more than you did for cows or mules. So we get in here. This would be if we're working cattle, this would be sort of our main pen. And you can, I said, these are native oak poles and all of it, going up to rough cut lumber. Down through the years, 100-year-old barn with livestock. The bottom is rotted off, sorry. And so down through the years, they would jack it up, cut it off, and they'd set it on concrete or rock pillars. You can see every one of them is on some form of a concrete or rock. Used to be right here was where the gate was. And in doing the updates after we added the cattle chute, a couple years later, this is not really working well to get them in there. Let's move. We added this wall and moved the gate over here and made, I'm not saying it's a Bud Williams style, but it's more of a easy flow. I can open up this gate and latch it. And then when we come in here, we get the cattle going like this, around, like so. And then when they're in here, it's just a push them into the pen. This section of the barn did not have any lighting at one point, which made it, the cows don't like it when you go from outdoors in the light to inside in the dark. And so Dad added a bunch of lighting and wiring. He is a fantastic handyman. He went through building trades at Leclerc, which honestly, that was time well spent. So then we get into this pen. We can, once they get going, we can grab this gate and bring it around. and latch it. And now we're in our actual squeeze pen. Out of this pen, we can do 3 different things. We can go into the cattle chute, or this door right here leads into the alley for loadout, like I showed you earlier. Or if we're sorting off, we can go out this door, which we have a secondary gate over the door so that they don't push on the door. And everything's in here. We've got squeeze gates right here. For loadout, we can latch that and then push them through that door. Or when we are going out this chute, this gate here would be open. It's the rolling one I showed you. And that's key. You got light. Cows are always going to go towards the light. Well, we got this gate here. We unlatch right there. We can swing it around and you can squeeze them to go through there. You can work it as a one-man deal, tail them, and they go to that self-catch head gate. Or if you got somebody standing on this other side, which that reach-through hold is very important. That's where I turned on the light just a little bit ago. You can stand here and look through, and somebody just around the corner can shut the gate or shut the door. Like that. And it's got a good backup bar so that it don't bust off the door. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this light off so I don't forget. And we'll walk out. This is fantastic, because I'll show you what my grandpa had before we had a head gate. This was a manger I had made for when I had goats. I could put a whole square bale of hay in here for anything that needed to be pinned up for a while, kidding or sick or something. I don't know. One of these days we might have a small ruminant back on the farm. This part of the barn, sort of a bit of a catch-all. We parked some implements in it out of the weather, and just storage. Same with here. We've got loft storage for a lot of chicken equipment, old feeders. Right there is our chicken crates for when we got to move chickens. And then this big sliding door here, we'll open it up short for just a little bit. The bulls are behind this, so we can't leave it open. But it rolls up open all the way into this pasture and makes this a full alley. I'll step outside and you can see. Full alley all the way through. So this is another option. We can let cows out this way. Or what works great, we used to a lot of times, if rain was coming and we had hay, square bales on wagons, you can just pull the wagons through here and you can get 2 or 3 wagons sitting in the dry. This is our little pasture, which is very overgrazed because it has been holding on to the bulls all winter. Right there's Buttercup, our dairy cow. And that right there is our hay barn. So, a little context of where we are. And we'll shut this gate back because we don't want cows out. Okay. Now right here, farmers, before they had grain bins, and before we did, farmers did shelled corn, you did ear corn. So this was a granary at one time. And again, Dad added this light because, it's pretty bright in here. This is early morning, sun shining through there, but you get to past about 10 o'clock, it's not very bright because the sun's not shining through there. So we put that on there. And I bought one of those LED garage lights, which is amazing. And so this was a granary for ear corn. Then it was for shelled corn. And now it is where we would store ground feed. Yeah. And again, light. That's wonderful. I remember the years before we had light in this barn, and it was not always the easiest to work cattle or just even maneuver. Okay. See all these gates? These are rough cut oak native lumber. They are built mule high all the way to the top. This barn was designed for mules, not for cattle. And then we're going to, oh, here. So the gates were hung high and you always had these beams underneath. And that's because as you would feed things through the winter, because they always fed cattle or mules first, then after the tractor replaced mules, cattle. And as you would feed in the manger, which I'm going to show you, the manure would build up and your gates wouldn't be dragging, but you still had this beam keeping anybody from wanting to go underneath. So here's the manger in the middle of the barn, loft above us, and it works great. There's a hole in the floor of the loft right up here, right here, and you can dump your hay bales down through there, then distribute them all through the manger, and they can eat. And 60 or 70 head of weaned calves can get in here and belly up to the buffet. Okay, here's one of the original lights in here, right here. But this is the old part of the barn. You can see it's just rough hewn beams. Right there, that'd be a mule feeder. Mules are taller than cattle. And again, you had a hole you could just dump the hay in from the loft. That'd have been back when you were forking hay, loose hay. And yeah. So we got the manger, all this section, that's the native beams. There's the door right there that goes all the way out the into the scale area. We got a cow in here right now. Her calf was a little sick, so we treated and left them in here, which he's doing a whole lot better right now. And there's our bottle calf on the other side of the fence. Now we come outside to our pens, and they've went through several different phases. The last one we put pipe fence in, which I love. It's a little more costly, but today, cattle panels are not what they used to be, even in the 90s, but especially the old cattle panels from decades past. Automatic water, that was one that Dad put in, because always before it was cattle tank and you had to fill it. Well, automatic water makes things so much easier. You can water both sides of the pen. And here's the barn on this side. Lower level, ground level loading for square bales. You'd get about 4 high. If you filled the whole barn, you would move the elevator to that door, and then as you were stacking, you could stack all the way to the peak walking on those bales. Several thousand square bales would fit in this barn. I don't remember how many Dad said. You got a section here which was equipment storage. You say hi, Mama? There we go. Entrances from both pens. And that one there is the where the scales are. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick tour. I can give you a tour of the loft, and we'll go upstairs, walk through the manger instead of doing gates. Got where we can put a board down to keep anything from jumping through, and that's what we had done with the bobby calf. So, oh, I promised I'd show you what my grandpa used to use as a catch gate. Right here. There used to be a chain wrapped around this post here. You get a cow and you run her up in here and you'd slam this gate and chain it behind her to that gate. And that is how Grandpa used to treat cattle. Not the most safe, not the most effective, but you know what? It worked for a lot of years. A whole lot of years. Oh, wondered what that was. That's the cat sitting there. Okay, I'll take you upstairs real quick. Another light switch. And here's upstairs in the loft. This loft is emptier than I have really ever seen it in my life. We don't do nearly the amount of square bales as like Dad and Grandpa. Before the mid-90s, all they did was square bales. They'd fill several barns full, no round bales. I mean, that's work. Yeah, let's see. Beautiful old barn. As a kid, I used to love coming up here. To this day, is still one of my favorite places on the farm. Especially when we fill it with new cut hay. Oh, that smell you just cannot beat. Here's the loft doors. I'm gonna show you a view. Part of the reason I like up here. I could sit here and just look out. Beautiful view. Okay guys, I'm looking at the time on this video. I didn't realize it had taken so long for this tour. But there's a lot of history to show, a lot of things. As I'm pointing it out, I realize that I just go day to day and don't notice. The other end has the same deal, 2 doors. You can fill this side from these doors, the other side from the other doors, and then the center section would be from here. Look up here. That's the old hay fork for loose hay. Grandpa talks about that was the first chore that he had as a kid. The way they worked, I don't know if you can see that track running all the way the length. That end, that big triangle would all open up before they redid it as tin when it was just strictly wood. That whole end would open up. That fork that I just showed you right over here, it would be on a, well, you can still see some of the rope hanging there. It would go all the way out the door. They could drop it on a wagon, and then that rope through pulleys would go down through that window, and Grandpa would be sitting on an old pickup truck. I don't know if it would be a Model T or what they had. And he was just barely able to clutch and drive, and he would be in charge of pulling that through. And he used to say they'd get irritated if he couldn't hear them to say stop, and he'd take it past where they wanted to drop it. They had to manually pull that back with all that hay, and that thing would be just a huge pile of hay, and drop it, and then there's another rope on it, and they pull it all the way back out and get another fork full. Them old timers, they worked hard. Sometimes I wonder I'm not half the man that they were. And this is our dairy calf. Or bobby calf, not dairy calf. He just got fed. He's wanting another bottle, but he won't get one until this evening. Yep, ground feed. So, okay guys, that's the tour of the 100-year-old barn. I hope you enjoyed it, and you guys have a great day. Have a good weekend, and see you Monday.